Hello, my name is Dr. Jerry Law, and I am the Director of Family Education and Leadership Training for Meadows Behavioral Healthcare. Thank you for taking time to watch this video on the similarities and differences between the words sober and recovery. We know that members of our team may use words, phrases, and acronyms that you find new or foreign, and we wish to clarify any misunderstandings that may occur. While your loved one is in treatment, you may hear the word sober used in many ways that you find perplexing or even not applicable to you, your family, or your loved one. So let's take a few minutes and visit this important topic. For many of us, the word sober has always described the condition in which one finds themselves the day after drinking too much. For example, wow, I had too much to drink last night, but now I'm sober. Or, yikes, my brother sure is drinking a lot today, but I'm confident he'll be sober by the time we drive home. Well, these are very legitimate uses of the term, but are there other ways of using the word that are equally valid? Well, in the world of recovery, we tend to use the word sober in multiple contexts. For starters, let's examine the difference between being sober and being in recovery. Often the words are used interchangeably. Frequently, therapists, as well as individuals who are no longer using mood-altering substances, state that recovery is really about the active and ongoing participation in a program that includes abstinence and also a commitment to a variety of practices such as 12-step work, support group attendance, individual therapy, psychoeducation, and other means that sustain a life that does not include mood-altering chemicals and/or behaviors. Accordingly, sober is a component of recovery rather than recovery itself. Now, you may know someone who has discontinued the use of addictive substances and yet continues to behave in ways that really aren't much different. Sometimes these individuals are referred to as dry drunks. Well, not a pleasant term, and yet one that will ring true to many of you. So my point is not to split hairs, but rather to discuss how the words sober and recovery are frequently used as synonymous or as being very different, which can certainly be confusing. Knowing this, you may wonder why the word sober is often used when referring to an individual who has no history of use or abuse of mood-altering chemicals. Well, the answer is one that needs to include some fundamental understanding of neurology. While I am not a medical doctor, certainly not a neuroscientist, I can share what I've learned about the central aspects of how neurons function. Now, your brain is made up of many types of cells, including neurons. It's been estimated that you have somewhere near 100 billion of these cells. Now, I'm not sure who counted these, but regardless, it's clear we all have a whole bunch of these amazing cells. The primary job of neurons is that of communication. Each neuron has a central core or nucleus, along with tendrils called axons and dendrites. So for neuron A to communicate with neuron B, an electrochemical process takes place. The axon of neuron A reaches out to the dendrite of neuron B. Now these two tendrils don't actually touch, but come very close to one another. The axon of neuron A releases neurochemicals such as dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and others into the space between itself and the dendrite of neuron B. This second neuron receives these neurochemicals in a particular order and understands the message. It's truly remarkable. The information then travels down the dendrite to the nucleus of neuron B, and it's then passed on to other neurons. Now, this is a terribly simplistic explanation, but does demonstrate the fundamentals of what's taking place in the neural system. Mood-altering substances, by their very nature, disrupt this process of exchange between neurons. We use the word impaired to describe what's taking place. It has nothing to do with intelligence or willpower or education. It's about neurology. You may have had times when you observed your loved one and thought or even said out loud, wow, she's just not thinking straight. Well, that's not a metaphor. It's an accurate description of what's going on in his or her brain. The good news is that over time, the brain has the ability to heal, and with help, your loved one can begin to process information without this disruption. Now, here's a vitally important truth. Behaviors such as compulsive gambling, eating disorders, sex addiction, and so forth have the same disruptive consequences in the brain. Similarly, disorders such as depression and mood disorders, codependency, and anxiety cause similar disturbances. Yes, there are many unique aspects to each of these diseases or disorders, and I'm not lumping everything into the same basket. It's critical that an accurate diagnosis be made and that proper treatment modalities be applied. However, it is safe to say that each have some of these disruptive neurological aspects. So let's tie it all together. When we use the word sober in reference to your loved one, be it for a day or many years, that may be an accurate depiction of his or her condition. We may be talking about the absence of mood-altering substances in the person's system, and we may be talking about the absence of mood-altering behaviors. It's also correct to refer to an individual who has ceased codependent actions as being sober. We can say that a compulsive gambler or individual struggling with sex addiction is sober when they're no longer practicing these destructive behaviors. Whether or not they are in recovery, well, that may be a matter of debate and or your individual preference in the use of these words. Now, we realize it may be confusing, so anytime a member of our team uses terminology that you find perplexing, please do ask for clarification. Our goal is to not only provide world-class treatment and care for your loved one, but also be a resource for family healing.